Good morning, day or evening, and welcome to episode 429 of Kodsnack. This is part 2 of the discussion between Kristoffer and Harald Achitz, which started in last week's episode. You don't strictly need to listen to that one before this one, but it will give you a little bit more context for this one. Harald is a C++ developer and also the driving force behind the Sweden CPP group of Meetups. Kristoffer and Harald talk about Djinni, a tool for integrating C++ code into applications, as well as Harald's work with the Meetups. And last but definitely not least, they discuss work on the C++ standard itself and how and why Swedish developers and organizations should get involved in the evolution of the language. As usual, links to everything discussed can be found in the show notes. Enjoy!
I did want to go back. So you mentioned that you got into TDD. I was just wondering if you did TDD full on, like this whole, like you write a test and then you write the code and then you make a change to the test and then you change the code.
Very often I do like this because when I design the public API, I put myself first in the shoes of a user.
Yeah.
And I make 4 or 5 calls. What are good naming? What is a good signature of a function? What the names that make sense? So in this sense, I sketch up, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always 100% that I first make the code, but very often I said, so okay, I want to do something. Let's sketch it up. How would I like to call it?
Right. Yeah.
And when I have a test file and a nice build system where I just copy a template, right? And add the includes of what I want to use. Maybe it doesn't exist or I add it already. And then I just write, how would I like to call this, right?
Yeah.
And then I go to the implementation and then it goes back and forth, right? Sometimes it is a little bit that when you're done in the implementation, you do a little bit of implementation.
Yeah.
And then go back and then you refactor. But this is why I said that the code coverage is important.
Right.
So at some point that you don't, because people are lazy and I'm also lazy. This is why I'm landed maybe in front of the computers, because I always wanted the computer doing the job for me.
Yeah.
So people are lazy, and it can also happen to me, right? That I say, implementation, I do it later.
Yeah.
But when you have the firewall of, your code coverage is not really good, right?
Right. Yeah.
Then you need to say, okay, now I need to do something. And the earlier this happens, this feedback, that, hey, your code coverage is not good. And they say, okay, what do I need to call into this code?
Yeah.
And then you say, why is it so complex to call into this code? Is this code, has it maybe too many dependencies?
Right.
So you if it's not easy to call into code, then you see already, what could be there the case? Maybe I need to make something. And then, of course, you have always edge cases where I say, with unit tests, I cannot call into this because I need a simulator or something. Right?
Yeah.
But you cannot generalize these edge cases to the whole code base. Then you have these few places where you make this no cuff or something.
Yeah.
And you rely on a later testing stage.
It's interesting because the more I've been working in a cloud environment, the more I see concerns where it is exactly like this, where you write something and it's completely dependent on the complete environment in order to run. So then people skip writing tests and skip, code coverage and all this because it's just part of a big puzzle that just kind of lives in production. It's almost as if you're programming a computer by flipping switches on it, and there's no source code anymore, and it's just it doesn't sit right with me. And my view would be that like if you're doing this kind of microservices thing, the purpose should be to make sure that every piece is completely tested in isolation, like that.
Yes,
that would be the point.
And independent bricks, right? Where you say, okay, I throw something in and I expect something to come out.
Right, exactly.
And I know at least when I throw this in, this comes out.
Yeah, but it seems that a lot of people tend to skip this part and just kind of see it as an excuse to not do testing at all, which is...
Yes, this is... when you're in stress situations, right? I mean, then you need to deliver yesterday, right? And then you say, okay, I make it up, and somehow, right? Yeah. And we all know that very often this I made it up fastly because I need to deliver it. Yeah. That these solutions very often have a long life.
Yeah.
And very often also because they are not easy to replace.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have this solution that has this 500 dependencies and no one is happy with it, but you need to carry it around with you over years and over generations of developer.
Yeah.
Because the person who's written it then quickly leaves the company because burns out with their own code they have written. So yeah, but this is, I mean, there are hundreds of reasons why this could be the case, right?
Yeah.
So it's not easy to solve. It's not always solvable, but you need to at least to have, if you have the right idea to do something and you move your development into the right direction and you try, maybe you will not reach 100%, but it's better to reach 60, 70% or even 50% than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think it is a lot to do with a way of thinking or like a mindset.
Of
and
course,
the specific tools are maybe not that important, but the important thing is having the right.
And it's not part of any education.
Yeah.
So the thing is after a while when you start. So I had the experience that a lot of things I showed to colleagues over the time. The first time was, why would I ever need it?
Right.
And then after a while they say, wow, that's great, right? so and I was myself, I struggled when I but I was forced to do it, right? Because I didn't want to deal with my own bugs anymore. And I had no testing department. So it was my own weekend time I had to kill for stupid bugs.
Yeah, it's one of those things you realize over time is that at the beginning you're so focused on programming languages and programming features and which language should I choose and all these things. And after a while you realize that that's not really the interesting problem. The interesting problem is, when you come into a company that has a code base, whatever it is, and the people who wrote it are gone, like how do I figure out how it works? That's where it gets interesting.
How readable, how maintainable, how well tested, how open for change.
Right.
Is the environment, and this is hard to reach. And it is, of course, you need to train your brain to do several things, right? Like everything in life, where till something becomes a habit.
Yeah.
First, you need to force yourself. If you didn't do running, and then you start to run the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 3 months, you need to force yourself to go out, no matter if it rains or if it's cold or not, or hot. But if you do it after a while, when you then cannot run, then it feels strange. Oh, I can do my workout today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the same can happen with development. If you start applying certain mindsets, at the beginning you do it wrong and it's frustrating and you might feel even stupid because, the internet tells me it's so great, I have just problems. But if you then figure out and apply it, it's like a craftsmanship.
Yeah.
You become better and it starts to feel natural. And after a while you say, hey, I have this code, but I have no test for it. Let me quickly add some tests.
Yeah.
Because it becomes natural.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So I wanted to also let's jump to another topic because I know you wanted to talk about Djinni, and I guess it kind of plays in. So it's not really about what you do for work, I guess, but this is your spare time project.
Yeah, it was. So it is the Djinni project. It came to work to me over work because I had the pleasure to be involved in a project where C++ came on mobile phones for Android and iOS.
Right.
Which was a lot of fun, but the difficult is not to write code. The difficult and this is the infrastructure actually, and also teams, because you have C++. You introduce this to mobile developer. Mobile developer live in their world, right?
Yeah.
And they have a lot to do, and then you put something else on the table, and oh my god, I can't take more of anything, and so it's also a very interesting topic.
So can you talk a little bit about what it is? And
Yes. So when I was involved with this one of the things was Djinni,
right,
which we used for doing the interfaces. So it's an interface definition language, Djinni.
Right. Yeah.
And with a code generator, and the code generator generates the code in Objective-C or in Java.
Yeah.
And also C bindings are on the way since some time. And this allows you to use your C++ code from other languages.
Right.
So you get basically C++ abstract interface, class-based.
Yeah.
You implement this interface. You provide a create method where this implementation is created as the abstract object you defined in the interface file. And this then can then be used from Objective-C or from Java, and through Objective-C from Swift.
Right.
And through Java from Kotlin.
Yeah.
And I had this in the project, so it was already there when I came.
Yeah.
But I've seen it was developed by Dropbox, and Dropbox gave up on it.
Right. Yeah.
For interesting reasons, and we could also talk a half hour about those reasons.
That is quite unusual, though. Like usually, when a company creates a project in open source, it becomes just part of the. Because you rarely hear about open source projects that get abandoned and then picked up by someone else.
Let's go down this route and let me give you my thoughts about this. Right.
Sure.
So when you today start this project and say, hey, there's the Djinni generator and I can use it and it works.
Yeah.
Then someone has already done that job for you.
Right. Yeah.
When you're in the process of creating this and you say, hey, I start using C++ on mobile phones and let's create Djinni as a part of it,
yeah,
it becomes very expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're then a manager and look and say, wow, 50% of the work you do, and this is just what I guess what could have happened, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the internals, but I could imagine that over the time managers say, well, we spend 50% of our C++ time in generating the tool, right?
Yeah.
And of course we blame C++ for not having the right tool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the problem where people say, oh, can we not have everything in Java, or can we not have everything in Swift?
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering, if maybe Dropbox decided to move to... I mean, there's things like Flutter, for example, where you also get some of the idea of that you can use
you have
one language.
The same problems with Flutter. Right. Existing developers will not be very happy.
Yeah.
Then there is no real solution, I think, that really solves everything. I mean, there was also React.js and React Native, where even Facebook, I think, stopped back, even if they developed it. And some people like it because all they knew is about this. So it's about the environment you're in and about the development teams.
Yeah.
In case of Dropbox, it was also that on the Apple platform, Swift came as a new kit in town. And on the Android platform, Kotlin came as a new kit in town. And I can imagine that for the iOS developer and for the Android developer, it was much more attractive to say, let us start a new greenfield project.
Yeah.
And when the code you reuse is not too hard, right? And you have good testing, then why not having implementation in 2 languages, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would maybe that this was kind of the reason. And there is also a blog post what was wrong with the C++. Of course, you have not that many C++ developers available on the market.
Yeah.
And it's true, it's a little bit difficult. Actually, as a development target, the Android and the iOS platform, it's very C++ friendly. Right. Because you have very modern compiler.
Yeah.
You can go with the language standard. It's not a problem to update.
Yeah.
Limitations are very slow. Just if you say, okay, I want to support old iOS versions or so, then some things are limited by the iOS version you want to have as a minimum target. But you usually don't have. Apple is pretty aggressive in moving forward, so you can move forward. But the thing with Djinni is I liked it because it enables the interface definition language is like a contract.
Right.
The interface definition language is designed very, very well.
Right.
Supported for modern C++, or what we call post C++11 C++ in the C++ world.
Right, yeah.
So that it generates you types you feel familiar with and interfaces you feel familiar with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's nice.
That's nice, and it is in use. It is still used in more places than you would expect.
Right.
So I have seen there were a lot of pull requests still open to the Dropbox repository.
So how did you end up being the one that picked it up?
Yeah. If no one else does it, right?
Right.
No, actually, I wanted to add a feature for myself.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, no one will take this pull request, and I paired up with a few other people that also had changes in mind.
Yeah.
And mostly me and one other guy from Germany was very active with this at the beginning.
Right.
And forking this repository. Then we looked into it and split it up into multiple components.
Yeah. Right.
The generator, the support lib, then there are editor plugin supports, and finally also a sample implementation. So I like this project. It's a very, diverse project because it includes multiple programming languages, which is what I like. It's not just C++. So if you care about this, you care about the binding to the Objective-C world and the Swift world, or the binding to the Java world, now to the Python world, or also to the .NET world, even if I cannot speak about the .NET world. This is done by Johannes Kraft mostly. But you have a diverse environment in this respect. And the generator itself is written in Scala.
Oh, okay.
Which is an interesting decision done
I wasn't expecting that.
By Dropbox, but it's a nice language, Scala.
Yeah.
So it's pretty. You can quickly learn it. The Batson needs to work with the generator implementation.
Yeah.
So this is not horrible complex. This is nice.
Yeah, I think I file Scala in the same bucket as I file C++. That in a way, if you can control it, if you have control of the project and decide what style to do it in, then Scala can be quite nice. But coming into someone else's code base when there's several hundreds of operators who are doing different things and so on, then it's very painful. But,
I mean, several programming languages have this problem, like Perl had it, right?
Yes,
that
definitely.
Someone else's code was usually not readable. Ruby also, because in Ruby, let's make developer happy. Everyone can write in every style they want. And,
exactly. Yeah, Lisp as well is, it's very cool to be able to write macros for everything, but then coming into the project is like it's a completely new language every time. So
this is but I mean the part I didn't decide for Scala. It is what was there, and I have no problems to live with it.
Yeah.
Even if I would have infinite time for this project, I would, because there is another parser.
Right.
For the JetBrains plugin, which uses a BNF grammar.
Okay.
And it would of course be nice to have just one location of the logic, and just having this one grammar, and maybe using something for both implementations.
Yeah.
But time is limited for side projects.
So what is the? Do you have any plans? Like, do you, as a team, the people who work on it, do you have any plans, or is it just kind of maintaining it and making sure it still works and picking up?
No, we're adding features, we're adding languages, because there are a lot of people that have added various languages.
Right. Yeah.
We have just on Saturday a new release of the generator.
Yeah.
Where we fixed a few things and added also output locations and so on, improve unit tests for the stuff.
Right. Yeah.
We had another person contributing something where you can decide if you implement the interface object. So in Djinni you have data objects or record object. They are value types, so they are always passed by value. They are copied. And then you have interface types. They're like Java references, so you always have a reference to the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is under the hood usually a shared pointer implementation, but a shared pointer can be null. And one feature of Djinni is you can say, okay, I want this type to never be null.
Right.
And then what not null pointer implementation would you like to have, because the C++ standard doesn't give you one.
Yeah.
So you need to pass in something, and there was a very exotic use case that it broke, and one person just fixed it. So this is, and now we have this place where people can, when they have such problems, either they can report it to us and we will fix it when we have time, or they can simply find a fix and we will release it.
Right. Yeah.
And make it available. So, and I cannot say what I said. I like this project a lot because it's diverse in languages.
Yeah.
I like the mobile platforms. I like that it includes C++.
Yeah.
As a common business logic layer, or when you need performance or efficiency in memory efficient stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the possibility it gives. So it's like a training subject. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have continuous delivery from the, when we tag something, GitHub Actions, right, make a release.
Yeah.
When we tag something from the editor plugins, it goes to the JetBrains shop that you can download it the next day in your Android Studio or whatever you use. Right. Also for Visual Studio Code. So these are nice things. Yeah, it's also a playground to try out things that you cannot try out in real world projects.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's actually, I found this space of interfacing between two languages a pretty good place to start if you're trying to learn a new language. Like that's how I learned Python from the beginning, is that I was working in a game company and we decided to use Python as a scripting language in the game. Mm. And I had never looked at Python before, but then my task became to interface Python with C++. And so that's kind of was my way. And you learn a lot about kind of the philosophy of the language, like how it works, like the garbage collection or reference counting, all these things you kind of have to deal with when you're doing the interfacing. And of course, then you also want to do it efficient, so you have to figure out how to pass things back and forth in a good way and so on. So yeah, I think it's if you like languages, it's a pretty good project to work on, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And mobile platforms are interesting also as right. targets, because computers these days are not computers anymore, right? Yeah. Like I grew up with a computer, with a desktop computer, but this becomes more and more niche. Yeah. So computer is your mobile phone or your tablet, and the cloud on the other side. Yeah. And this is what people more and more have as computers.
Yeah. No, definitely. Oh yeah, so I had one question. I was looking a little bit at it, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, that one of the things that you've done after taking over the project was to split it up into two parts, if I understood it correctly. So you have the generator, so I guess that's the language part, and then there's a support library. I was just wondering, what does that part do? So there's actually parts that are kind of part of the runtime that you have to link in.
Yes, exactly. Right. You need so the one thing is that the generator is text in, text out. Yeah. Basically, so I have an interface definition language, and I generate C++ code, right. And if you interface Objective-C code, and Java code or Python stuff or .NET stuff. So this is the generator. Right. And then there is the support lib where you have a little bit of common functionality, like the whole boilerplate you don't want to write if you do this binding to these languages. Yeah. And there is a very good talk about Djinni and how it works, and this shows you the internals of this. So right. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a talk. There are two talks actually from CPPCon 2014 and 2015. Right. Yeah. And maybe I will send you the links, then you can put it in the notes. Yeah, exactly. But this is the common code where you have actually the GNI stuff or the Objective-C stuff that is required to make this generated C++ code being able to go into the other languages. Yes. And then when we looked at it, we found this editor plugin. Right. For the JetBrains IDE,
Right.
But you say also there is no reason when I change the generator that I have a new build of the editor plugin, right?
Right.
So and the same with the when I change the support lib, why should I build a new generator?
Right.
So this is why it makes much more sense to split this into extra projects.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of a dependency, but this is not very often the case that it becomes a problem. We had once where we said, okay, we need the latest generator for this support lib implementation.
Right.
And there are ways to solve it. We just haven't had time to implement this. So if we reach this corner case, we just say, okay, let's make it on your computer, and then we automate it when we have time to do it.
Right.
So there are a few automation tasks open in this respect.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing that makes it a pretty good spare time project, because otherwise it's easy to end up just having to chase dependencies all the time. Things change and you have to update. But yeah, that's interesting. So okay, so we're already been going for quite a while. I don't want to take up your whole evening, but I thought we should also talk a little bit. I told you
if it will go wild. If I'm not focused on a topic and we don't plan for staying focused on a topic, it will be wild.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, yeah. So Fredrik is not here, but he's usually the one who kind of keeps things under control. I can talk forever. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the C++ meetup as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is also kind of like we were talking about. The difficult parts of programming is the social part and actually getting people to think holistically and all this. And I think the meetups is kind of part of that picture, is that, wanting to make sure that we communicate good practices and these things. Mm-hmm. But I thought maybe you can tell me, like, how were you the one who started the meetup in Stockholm from the beginning, or how did that start?
Yes. So actually, when I came to Stockholm, I was actually looking for developer communities because I didn't knew any people here.
Yeah.
And there was not really something for C++. There was a group and it had members, and I always waited that something happens, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then the organizer stepped down and said, okay, now someone will take over this and make something happen.
Right.
And a few days later, no one has stepped in. And I was shit, nothing will happen. So I said, okay, what can go wrong, right? So I will take care of it.
Yeah.
And so this is now 5 years ago.
Right.
And when I tell you that my daughter turns 4, my timetable has just changed a little bit in this time.
Right. Yeah.
But it's still fun to keep this ongoing and of course, I mean the thing is to I mean, for me, being the way I came into programming and the constant learning stuff and knowledge sharing stuff is for me important to create a platform where you share information, and it's now also that it's possible in a city like Stockholm where you find sponsors that are really to host such events,
right? Yeah,
and make them possible. Because even if you say, I just need a location and a little bit of something to drink for the people and maybe something to eat, that it is a investment for a company to do. Luckily, there are such companies in this city.
Yeah, I found it actually really nice. Like other meetups that I've been to, it's usually been one company kind of pushing it, and then if they decide they don't want to do it as often, then the whole thing kind of dies down. But actually with the C++ meetup, there's been a number of companies willing to host and
yes, this was one of the goals for me, to keep it company independent.
Yeah,
we have had sponsors that tried to take over and rename it to a company meetup, and it didn't turn out very well.
Yeah.
So the thing is, staying independent is I think it's important.
Yeah.
So for this to say this is a volunteer thing, where people go there for the fun of the actions and being together, sharing knowledge, and I have to say that we are very, very fortunate here in Stockholm to always. I never had a meetup with just one talk. I always had meetups with at least two topics.
Yeah.
Which allows me to balance the program a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I have to say I invest quite some times to make this possible.
I can imagine. It probably takes
come in touch with speakers, and often plan several months ahead.
Right. Yeah.
Making them available.
And reminding them that they have signed up. That's a big job as well.
Yeah, but I have to say, every bus so far has been reliable.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So I came in touch with wonderful people, right? This is one of the beauty which gives back to me for the work I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to do with people that's you learn to trust, and I'm still always a little bit, will the speaker show up in front of the meetup and so on, but it never happened anything bad.
Right.
So this is wonderful, and we have a lot of evenings where the people say this was the best meetup, and whenever meetup people go out and say this was the best meetup, then it's awesome, right? Yeah. So it was huge fun as long as we didn't have Corona.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the last year and a half, it's been on hold.
I decided.
What is your So what is your kind of outlook right now? Have you started thinking about?
Yeah. So of course. For the Corona time, I didn't plan to go virtual because one thing was very clear: when everyone goes virtual, every meetup in the whole world is open for everyone.
Right.
So, and I looked at it, and what I did was I put like a RSS feed on the Sweden CPP page with all the meetups in the world. And you could go to 3 meetups in the week, virtual meetups, C++ meetups, and I say, okay, why should I add one, right? Yeah. So this gave me also then the time maybe for the Djinni project,
right?
not to care about this, yes. But now I'm looking forward to restart.
Yeah.
As soon as it's possible. We had a super meetup planned, which we had to cancel March last year.
Right.
And we will still, I think we will start with the same program that we
nice.
Cancelled.
That's great, yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to doing this again, making the videos.
Yeah.
And one of the things I also started to enjoy is making the videos and putting them up on YouTube.
Right, yeah.
Because this is something where you have immediately feedback.
Yeah.
Usually the development stuff is a little bit abstract.
Right.
And so, but recording something and then coming home and making a video, putting together with the slide, uploading it to YouTube, it's something nice, something different.
Yeah.
That's changed a little bit perspective. So.
Right. Yeah, and it makes it valuable moving forward. It's not just kind of disappearing, and just the people who were there saw it.
And I'm fascinated by the technology, by the possibilities you have today.
Yeah.
Because not long ago, what you would need is have a studio. And today you can make such recordings which look and sound pretty professional, relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, of course, you can make them expensive. And then they will become even better.
Yeah.
But when you think for what we are, like a group of volunteers, I'm pretty satisfied with the result and with the possibility to share content with the rest of the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know people who work with conferences and have done it for a long time, who the kind of setups that they have are massive, and it's especially in the old days when you had to juggle big TVs and video cameras and things, it was a real hassle. But nowadays, even with a pretty normal phone, you can do a decent recording. So
yes, the greatest problem is today maybe getting the slides to the video, because this is still a pain. Yeah. Everyone comes with a notebook that works different on HDMI, which is it's such a disaster. But that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I've looked at a gang that made it professional, and they had a huge box just of DVI adapters for every notebook something.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are these things. So I was looking at, of course, when you start working from home and having a camera in your face all the time, you start thinking about these things. So there's these things where you can plug in multiple cameras into one device and then get a picture-in-picture thing. And they're not too expensive. Like it's not completely.
No, but there's still something to transport. I mean, if I could solve the transport problem, and then it is, of course, like I said, we go to different locations, and not every location you have the space, because you need some cabling on. It would be easy to record the desktop and record the camera and record the sound.
Yeah.
And put this whole thing together in OBS and live stream it even.
Right. Yeah.
So you can do this with interesting equipment everyone has basically in the pocket today.
Right. Yeah.
You might need a little bit of a accu when you record something 2 hours, but you can make this inexpensive possible.
Yeah.
But then you need to have this in place. You have cables involved. And this is the complex part. So I often think if I would have all my meetups on one location that I know, then I could make something like this.
Right. Yeah.
But when you always come to another place, and this is about also of the excitement, right? I come to a place and wow, does it look? How will it be, right? so then it becomes difficult with this setup, because you can make audio wireless, but camera is not wireless good possible.
Yeah.
Right now that you and even if you make audio wireless, you want to have a backup maybe, that if something happens, because it's not reliable. So I mean, this is me starting. Let's make a simple video. How hard can it be, right? And then I think about how to make live streaming with something, and it always explodes a little bit.
Yeah, no, exactly.
To the thing, but I'm so fascinated by the fact that you can do these things technically today. Because when I think back how the situation was with knowledge sharing, when I was young, it was a disaster, right?
Well, I mean, when I started programming, I used to go to a friend, so an uncle, I guess, a friend of my father's, who had a computer and a modem, and I would get to use it for 5 minutes, and I would download and print as much as I could in those 5 minutes, and I would have a folder at home with all this programming documentation that I printed. So there were no meetups or YouTube videos.
Yes, and it was already a challenge to find out what to know, what to look for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And today with this knowledge sharing platform, so I love this time. So this is why this makes me so enthusiastic, and having the possibility to share the talks. Yeah,
exactly.
So this is
Yeah, and I also have to mention speaking of different locations, my favorite location was the C+ meetup, where we were in a mine in south of Stockholm, which was really cool.
Atlas Copco, So 20 meters below the surface. It looks like the James Bond cave.
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't mind if every meetup was in a place like that.
I mean, it is nice to see the different locations. I think I have no location so far where I said I don't want to go there anymore.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I have to say, I think you made the right choice at the start of all this to kind of pause the meetups. Like you said, a lot of places went virtual, but I feel like at this point everyone is so sick at staring at a Zoom meeting all day that you don't want to sit there in the evening as well.
I mean, it is an interesting development, because you make things accessible for people that hadn't the joy. I mean, look at the conferences, which happens now, CPPCon, right?
Yeah.
You just need to stay awake in the night.
Right.
Previously, you had to go to the US, right? But you don't have the hallway tracks and the life experience.
Right, it's not the same. Yeah.
So we will see how this changes. I think it will have a little bit of impact. CPPCon, for example, this year will be a hybrid conference. So they do live, and they do also virtual.
Right.
And maybe this is something they will keep for the future.
Yeah, I mean, it is really nice. It's I mean, you can also say that it's an accessibility thing. You know, people who are not able to travel or not, can't afford it or physically not able to go places. for them this is great. So
Yes,
if we can find a way to combine both, that would be fantastic.
And then you think about what Apple announced with the screen sharing in the FaceTime, where you watch together content, what one people watch, right?
Yeah.
So we could use this FaceTime and watch the same conference,
right? Yeah.
Live stream, and be in our Sommerstuga or wherever. Yeah. And still have a group of people. So it is interesting how this will impact the world, and we will have some change. I think we will not notice that there is change, but something will change, I think. So interesting times,
But at least the C++ meetups are not going away. I think we can say that.
Yeah, sure. they will definitely come back.
So what is do you know what the situation is with the other ones in Sweden? So it started in Stockholm, but I know now it's in Gothenburg and Malmö and Linköping as well.
Gothenburg was the same. There was actually something that was not active, and I didn't know about it until it went away. No, actually, I found it by accident, and I asked the person, "Hey, don't you want to do something? I can support you that it will run like in Stockholm."
Right.
And the answer was no answer, but the person quitted his organizer. And I said, "Okay, I take this group over, and we're looking for people that could run this in Gothenburg."
Right. Okay.
And so there are 3 people that take a little bit hand on this when they have time.
Right. Yeah.
And there have been some meetups there, quite nice, and coding sessions.
Yeah.
And I hope they will also start. And it's also for me a reason to go to Gothenburg once a year. so I like it. So that's nice. Yeah. And then there is one thing in Malmö, which is run by Olaf Novage. He's from Iceland.
Right. Yeah.
And in Linköping was something from one person. He became a little bit tired after 1 year. So we're looking for someone who wants to run the meetups when there is something again. And I'm planning to visit Linköping.
Yeah.
And see. I mean, I need to tell people what it means to run a user group. Not everyone needs to make it like on the level like we do it in Stockholm.
I mean, you do have to care about it. I think that's, there's definitely work, and if it feels like work, then it's not going to be enjoyable.
I mean, what you need to do, you need to be reachable, and you need to be responsible.
Yeah.
Responsive. This is the key. So it is worst when someone, hey, I would like to talk at your meetup, and then it is in some mailbox I check once every 3 weeks, right? The person that asks you to talk about the meetup will maybe never come back to you. So even if you just, hey, awesome to hear from you, I'm super stressed, but I will come back to you, right?
Yeah.
If you just have it on this level. And then, I mean, on which moment is a meetup successful? And I say, as soon as 2 people meet in a cafe and talk about development, like we do it now, right? We could say this is a meetup. What we do now, we talk now hours about topics, right? And we could also do this as after work, and it would be one of the better afterworks, maybe. Yeah. So it must not be always conference-like events. It's just that in Stockholm it happens because we are so many talented people that are willing to present something which we need to be very thankful for.
Yeah.
That we have these people in town, that they do this and present knowledge and share it and do presentations. And of course, you cannot expect that you say, hey, I have a meetup and speakers will show up. But you can say, hey, I'm at a meetup and I will be in this coffee after work every 6 weeks or something like this. And maybe as a few people show up from time to time. And when you enjoy the time, then it's already successful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be a mini conference every time. It's as much of the enjoyment is to meet people who...
Yeah. And if it's in Sweden, it gives me a reason to visit this city once a year or so.
Yeah.
And maybe I can pair up with someone and we bring some talks, at least for one evening a year or so.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I understand also that this is a kind of commitment. For me, it wouldn't work if I wouldn't have the support of my wife, right?
Yeah.
That she gives me the possibility to do this.
Right.
Because that's also not easy. We live here in Sweden without relatives
Right.
and family.
Yeah.
So we need to manage everything our own. And when I say, hey, I have a meetup this day, then she works hard that this is also possible.
Yeah.
and you need to have this backup also when you do a long-term commitment. It is very easy to do something for 3 months, but for this is the role of a co-organizer or something, right?
Yeah.
But it's harder to do something for 1 year, 2 years, like we do now for 5 years.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I said that after some time things become a habit.
I mean, it's the same for this podcast, like if it wasn't for Frederick, who's the real, soul of the podcast who keeps it running, it would probably not be still ongoing, because it is, I mean, it's not a lot of work, and of course it's enjoyable work. Like I enjoy talking to people like this, but it's, you have to be there every week to do it.
Yes, but someone needs to do the work and cut this 3 hour mess we created now into something consumable for people.
Yeah, so that's someone else's problem, I hope. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we have one topic we should put in, and this is the standardization.
Yes, right. So we can probably do another talk in the future about as many things for as long, I think. But let's talk about that too.
I put this in as it is quickly explained. So C++ is a kind of democratic language because it's an ISO standard.
Yeah.
And how this works is there is a ISO group, and from every country in the world, there's the possibility to have a voice in this.
Like a local standards.
So you need to have a local body,
right?
And then you can put the local body to vote. Yeah. And when something goes into the standard, it's usually that they want to have a huge majority for something. So if they vote for something 51 to 49, this doesn't work, right? So from this kind, it's kind of nice because it is a little bit democratic, of course not real, because you need to be able to go to standard meetings, and you need to be able to be a member of the ISO and so on.
Right.
But anyhow, I looked at who is the responsible person from Sweden,
right? And
it turned out there is none,
right? Yeah.
Because there is no local body, and the way it works with ISO, there is the GTC1 or GT1, which is a technical standard, and there is the subgroup SC22, which is the ISO standard for programming languages, environments, and system software interfaces.
Right.
And within this SG22, there are several groups, and one is COBOL, Fortran, ADA, Prolog. But there is C++, programming language vulnerability. Well, now we talk too long, I can't speak anymore. Vulnerabilities, programming language vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And the Linux standard base. And the Linux standard base was a good idea, but it's not. But at least 3 or 4 groups of this should be very interesting for the Swedish industry, which is COBOL, because we had them we heard COBOL on Kodsnack, right?
Yeah.
That they're looking for talents still.
Yeah, exactly.
C, of course, and C++, but also the security standards for everything that is automotive and airplanes.
So do you know if there is a Swedish standards org for any of these?
No, it's not, because we missed already this SC22.
Okay, so it's already on that level.
It's already on that level, right? And there was wait, this is not with these things. It should be interesting for the Swedish industry, because showing they compete for international talent. And then they should also show, hey, we care about the development of all these things, right? Of secure programming languages, how C develops, how C++ develops, how COBOL develops.
Right. I mean, it seems like it would be interesting for a lot of the companies that use these languages and tools.
Exactly. Stay in touch, stay informed.
Yeah.
And showing that they are interested in this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I contacted the Swedish Institute for Standards, and about this, hey, what's going on here? Why? And they said, well, there is already on the level of SC22, there is nothing, right?
Right.
And they said, okay, how can we change this? And the guy at Dropbox basically said, okay, we can try to find out the way to make this possible.
Yeah.
But first I need to see that it's not just you.
Right. Yeah.
Because if I come as a small freelancer, right, I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, we will meet with some CIS stakeholder, and we need to make a presentation to them.
Yeah.
Where at least 3 people, better 5, give a very short 5-minute talk.
Right.
Why Sweden should have this organization.
It's like the Olympics. You're trying to, win be the city.
Yes. I mean, I understand somehow this ISO standard can be very serious stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't want to mess their time with people that step by, hey, I'm interested, and 3 months later they drop out. Right. And they just have a lot of work. Yeah. So they want to see that there is interest behind, and that there are companies maybe behind.
Yeah.
Also that do this over a longer time, not just a one shot or one time stuff, right? So my optimal situation would be after this first meeting, where we show that there is interest in Sweden, that this happens.
Yeah. This
tells us what exactly is needed, and there are enough people involved that the whole thing goes away from me, and it just happens. So this would be my optimal scenario for that.
I mean, it sounds like potentially it's getting out of hand. If you're already, we have to form the standards organization a level up, like for the whole industry. I just wanted to go to the C++ committee meeting.
I mean, there is, yes. I mean, the reason why I started this is we have talented people here in Sweden, and they can talk on a level with the people that make the standards in their language. And they're interested in being a language lawyer or something like this, or library lawyer, and doing this stuff of communication. That's absolutely not me. But what I say, if we have these people in this country, we should give them the possibility to participate.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm looking for a way to make this possible, on a way that this is not just. It will not turn off into a. Either big corp takes over to have one more voice in the votings via a national body,
right?
Or that some other companies make a playground for the bureaucrats. So I'm curious if it's possible to make a living, diverse, open organization for this that gives the people that want to participate a platform to participate.
Right.
I see maybe the standard meetings will change from as it have been in a hotel for 7 days without the window to more online stuff. So I think also such things have changed in the last year, so that it's not required for everything to travel. Maybe a little bit of traveling, but I think a lot of communication has moved online in the last 1.5 years, and to create a platform that makes the people possible to participate.
Well, it's also interesting, especially with C++, because it feels, I don't know all the details, but definitely when it came to C++ 11, the way that the language was developed changed a lot. So the standards process must have changed quite dramatically already there.
Yes, I mean, there was a lot of good motivation, and then it turns out, it took so long, right? It was planned 2008, and then it was 2000, and so on. And then they learned the thing. They say we do continuous delivery. We deliver all 3 years what is ready, and when something is not ready, we will not delay everything else. We will try to get it then into the next standard. And if it's 3 years away, it might be not nice if it's important features, but it's also not terrible. Yeah. So it changed in this thing, and then it changed also in the thing that C++ became popular again.
Yeah.
About 2008, about this time, where it says, okay, everything else is nice, but on the mobile phone, on the supercomputer, in the cloud, every performance and efficiency counts. And there is not a lot of alternative to C++. So since this time, the committee also grew a lot, and the people that are interested and participate became more.
Yeah, and I guess and also exactly, it's a different crowd as well. It's more of this mobile development and online development.
Yeah,
also interested in C++.
I would like to see more diverse people.
Yeah,
dropping into the standard and making the suggestion, maybe discussing possibilities, directions, and so on. To not have just the supercomputer crowds there that just sees their use case, but also and I'm not sure if this is possible.
Right? It would be interesting to see how this works out.
Try.
Because, I think the tendency for these standards organizations would be to say, like, okay, let's just go to the biggest company in Sweden in this space and have them drive it. And then, of course, it's going to be very, very conservative in that sense. But yeah, if you can manage to make it into a more open process.
Yes, then, let's see what we will need.
Yeah.
The first step is actually to show up that there is interest in Sweden.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to support this idea, please contact me.
Yeah, exactly.
That we can put this into the first CIS meeting. As said, there is also not just the C++ aspect. There is the COBOL aspect. I don't know if banks would be interesting to monitor, but from time to time there is a new COBOL version also.
Yeah.
And there is on OpenSTD. You can look at all the working groups.
Yeah.
What they actually do, what papers they release. So they are all quite active, at least those I looked at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so and C, I mean, it's not just C++, but also C.
C.
Through the same
and I have heard about efforts to synchronize this a little bit.
Yeah.
C and C++, so at least that they have a little bit, don't make each other's life harder. Especially C can make the life of C++ very hard, right?
Yeah.
The other way around, not so much. But that this doesn't happen. So yeah, it's interesting, and if you're interested in how languages develop, and especially these languages where you have a huge legacy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I mean, for me at least, the standards process has been a mystery. I mean, like before 2008, like you say, there really wasn't any open discussion around standards for C++. C++ was fixed, probably a lot because of concepts, so it was stuck on this idea that never really managed to work itself out. But it's not, as I've learned. So our mutual friend Arvid actually went to the standards committee meeting. And it's not as closed or as mysterious as you would think. It's actually quite straightforward.
Yes, the world has changed, right? This is what we say. The world is more open today than it was. It was never a secret, but you just didn't know that it existed, right? You didn't know about the mailing lists, and you didn't know about the stuff. And then there was, of course, there was one standard, 98.
Yeah.
And then industry told you we will be Java or .NET shops, right?
Yeah.
And then we have 2005, 6, 7. Then it started again 7, 8, where we say, oh no, C++ is still important. You cannot live everywhere without it.
Yeah.
So then the world was a different one, where you had YouTube pop up at this time, right?
Yeah.
And the conferences, and so it's not an accident that today people know about it. And it was always kind of open, but people didn't know about it, right?
Yeah,
so this is actually the beauty of the world we live in.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I'm looking forward to see how that goes. I'm sure we're going to hear about it in the future.
We will see. Either we will have one meeting and not a lot of things will happen, and I will say, okay, I cannot drive this also. To all my stuff, or someone takes over and drives it to whatever it will become, and then I have at least one person in Sweden I can blame when I don't like something in the standards.
Right.
We will see.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to combine the C++ meetups with the standards organization work.
Yeah, this would be, of course, nice, right? If you have done. I mean, I know very long time ago, Ericsson hosted a C++ meeting, standard meeting in Sweden.
Right.
There was one guy in Göteborg, where he was a little bit involved in this.
Right.
And of course, if there would be a voice, then getting these international people also to Sweden and having them at the meetup would be an obvious thing that would be nice to reach. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of round things off after 2 hours, which I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. If anyone is interested in contributing to Djinni or getting involved in the meetups, or especially, the meetups, especially in Gothenburg and Linköping, then I guess, but also just coming to the meetings, but then also getting involved in the standards committee work and potentially getting a Swedish representation for the C++ standard.
Or COBOL or C,
right.
or programming language security. Yeah.
So anything else that you would like to bring up?
No,
point?
at the moment, I think we I don't want to start another topic that takes a half an hour.
Right.
So I think it was pretty cool that you took the time to listen to this.
No, it's my pleasure.
I'm a little bit sorry that you have now some work to do to cut this down into consumable pieces.
That's not a problem. I enjoy it. But I guess also we should say, what is the website for the C++ meetup? Because you have all these links from there.
The best entry point is swedencpp.se.
Swedencpp.se. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and from there are links to all the meetup groups. There are the mail addresses under the about to reach all of us.
Right.
There is, when you want to sponsor it, a meetup, there is what to do. Or even if you want to make a meetup, you find what you could expect from a sponsor. You will find there also a very nice blog feed about C++ blogs and C++ videos that are released, the video feed, and the set C++ meetup feed that brings all meetups around the world. So it is a little bit, it became an information hub in the last year where I had a little bit extra time. So this is the best place to enter.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I've used it myself, so it's I like it. But yeah, thank you very much, and
thanks for taking time and listening to me. Thanks.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.